This week, the world of cinema lost a true giant. Robert Redford, a visionary actor, director, and the founding force behind Sundance, passed away, and with him, a chapter of independent film history. Robert Redford didn't just make films, he made space for filmmakers. He took risks. He told stories that mattered, and most importantly, he created an ecosystem where art, not commerce, was the driver. Here in Ireland, albeit that we look to these global names with huge respect, it's equally important to pause and recognise the people doing the same work right here at home. People who are building platforms, creating space, and nurturing talent, not for headlines, but for legacy. My guest today is one of those people. Zeb Moore is an actor, director, producer, and the co-founder of the Richard Harris International Film Festival, a festival he has spent over a decade growing from a small tribute event into one of the most respected indie film festivals on this island. He's also a theatre maker, a mentor, a fierce advocate for Irish arts, and someone who, like Robert Redford, believes in the long game, not just the showreel, but the substance. Not just celebrating the stars, but building systems to give voice to new ones. Zeb's roots in performance run deep. From a musical family with Eurovision and Van Morrison connections, to his own roles on stage and screen, and to his passion for helping the Irish diaspora to find a storytelling home through film. Over the next hour, we'll talk about legacy, risk, managing liminal spaces, health and wellness, bounce back ability, the business of thriving, not just surviving as an artist, the importance of claiming our cultural space, and of course, the business of festivals. From Limerick to Cannes to LA and back again, thankfully. As it happens, fresh from the screening of House of Guinness, I give you Zeb Moore.
How are you doing?
I'm great. Delighted to have you here. Now, you're fresh from the screening of House of Guinness. Spill the tea.
Last night, Netflix's new TV series. It was brilliant to be there, of course. And it's a phenomenal show. I don't want to give anything away, I'll be honest, I just don't.
Yeah, but you had a great night.
It's a fantastic night. Great collection of people, great time for networking as well. So it's great when you know, and I live on the West Coast now, so I'm not in Dublin that often. So it's nice to get an invitation and just come up and hang around with a few people.
And look how this lined up. Aren't we so lucky? Thank you so much for joining me.
Not at all. Thank you for having me.
We've this kind of in the diary since the summer. We met at Galway Fleadh.
We did.
Had such fun. That was a great networking event as well.
It is. Well, all film festivals are. You know, and I think it's very important for actors and people who are in the industry to get off their arses and go to film festivals. Sure. And they don't realise, or, you know, some actors don't realise how important film festivals actually are, you know, for networking.
I
and
agree.
Connecting.
They're not, you know, they're not just community, and they're definitely not just career. They're kind of like the soul of the industry.
I absolutely agree with you on that. It's an opportunity for filmmakers as well. So yes, we're talking about actors there, but it's across the board. It's producers, you know, filmmakers, directors, even behind the scenes, you know, very importantly, hair, makeup, you know, costume designers, all that kind of stuff. That's where they get to network, you know, and it's also where they get to share their stories. Absolutely. You know, so it's incredibly important. And I have to say, I really enjoy film festivals. That's apart from the fact that I've been running one for 12 years.
Perfect. And actually, a beautiful segue, because you were at the screening of House of Guinness last night, where we have themes like family, legacy, power, identity. And I'm wondering, does that resonate with you in relation to what you're doing in Limerick?
Right, so we have the Richard Harris International Film Festival, and it's run by a small group of people and a lot of volunteers. So the funding is always incredibly difficult. We fight hard, but we've come to that point, actually, and I'm going to give you an exclusive, in that we are now in the process of rebranding. the film festival.
Wow.
So, and I think what it is yes, we started, back in 2013, I think. We started the festival very small, one day screening a couple of local short films. And then within 3 years, my wife Sylvia took over as artistic director of the entire thing, and we just escalated. And then within 3 years, we were screening over 120 films from 25 different countries throughout the world. So it became a very important part of your calendar year. We normally go on in October. This year we'll probably have a much smaller event, but what we will do is it's all about the rebrand and look at innovation as well. Look at how we move the industry. This industry is always evolving, and with streamers and stuff like that, it's changing. So you have to look at if we look at the usual, say the Galway Film Fly or the Dublin Film Festival, Cork Film Festival, probably the three biggest, and they have their formats. But I think formats are changing, and I think you have to move with that. So we're actually looking at how we develop the festival, but also what we were starting to do was develop the film festival into more, I'm going to say more an arts festival. And we kind of looked at behind the scenes people. Yes, of course, we were honouring actors, and we had the biggest award show of the calendar year. For any film festival in Ireland, actually, I think we were kind of second to the IFTAs. We had this magnificent award show on our Sunday evening, and we'd have... for the last 3 years, we brought in a circus act and stuff like that. But we did it like, kind of Oscar-esque. So you would have, and the nominees are, and we'd bring in special guests from around the world to present the awards to various different people. So we had that kind of, you had that glamour effect. Yes. But we also looked at, we were the only film festival in Ireland, I think, to do live script reading at the time, which was an idea of mine because I love theatre. My background was theatre. That's how I started in this industry. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But we started doing live script reading, and for me, that was really great fun. I'll give you an example of one. We did one with Shane Connaughton. Shane was Oscar nominated for My Left Foot. He wrote My Left Foot. So he had a particular script called A Pirate Queen. And I said, can we do it? And he said, let's do it. So he came down. And it was directed by a gentleman called Tom Waller, who we were looking at this was actually going to go into production. And we got Stephen Ray down. We've actually had John Connors in various different script readings. We had Jared Harris, Jamie Harris, such brilliant names. Sean Cronin was another guy. Sean is your real villain. He's been in Mission Impossible and the Harry Potter movies and stuff like that. But yeah, just a great collective of people. And you would have, obviously like the Stephen Ray and caliber of people like that. But then I would look for local actors, and I gave local actors an opportunity. Like we could have 17 actors in the round on stage, and we brought a production value to it. So it would come up on the screen as credits and stuff like that. That particular one, we got Patrick Cassidy to write the opening music for. So Patrick Cassidy, composer, actually is originally from Limerick, based in LA now, and he wrote Misha.
Wow.
So it was just great fun. And I would say, I would literally hand scripts to people that morning. It'd be like, I'd meet you and go, Síle, actually, I'm going to give you a part. There you are. And you'd go, do I need to read this? And I go, you don't have time. You're on stage. But everyone was in the same boat. So it was just great fun. We did one year with Fionnuala Flanagan, and she just thought it was the most amazing thing. Because of the dynamic. It was the fun that was brought in. We weren't taking it serious. When I say we weren't taking it serious, of course we were taking the page serious, or the words. But it was about enjoyment. It was about fun. It was, you're at a film festival here to enjoy it.
Yes.
So let's just kind of enjoy it.
It's another dynamic, isn't it? It's art for art's sake, really. And it's bringing that different playfulness to the place, which sometimes commerce does get in the way of. And we have to be aware of the business side of things, but it is great just to bring it back to the human beings. And tell me, so when you talk about the writing of scripts and collective that is required for any film event to be as real and fabulous as yours, you come from a background of music and there'll be days like that. Let me give you...
Okay, so my uncle was the first person to represent Ireland in the Eurovision.
Correct.
I'm
telling you, correct.
Yeah, Butch Moore, walking the streets in the rain. My father is still alive, but he would have been probably the biggest session guitar player, definitely in Ireland, if not Europe, indeed the world. He was the main guitar player for Riverdance, for example. Yeah. But I think every Irish album to come out of Ireland in the 70s and 80s, my father is on.
Wow.
So he's worked with everyone from Daniel O'Donnell to, God knows, Elmer Bernstein. Actually, was only talking to him today about Elmer Bernstein. And which brought me on to Robert Redford. And which, and obviously he passed away recently. And what a legacy that man has left. But I remember my father said to me this morning, he said, yeah, when we were working on, I'm trying to think of the movie, A River Runs Through It. I think that's the name of the movie. And I think Elmer was the composer. But so my father was working with Elmer on the music aspect of the film. But Robert came to Ireland to meet the musicians. So he came in and my father said to me, he's the most remarkable looking man I've ever seen. Wow. So that was the presence that guy had.
Wow.
But yeah, so music-wise, yeah, we're steeped. So my brother is Van Morrison's bass player and musical director. I have a cousin who's the guitar player for Niall Horan. So yeah, there's a lot of us.
It's in the blood. And is there a natural Venn diagram then for film?
No,
not naturally.
I broke the mold of the music, I think. But again, I spoke to you briefly about it. Yeah, of course, I'm steeped in music. I was brought up in it. I was the kid in the pit in the Olympia, watching musical theatre, and sitting on my father's knees. He played the guitar.
Fabulous.
And amazingly, it just goes full circle. Yeah. Like all my kids grew up doing their homework in the Bell Table in Limerick. In the theatre aspect of it.
Yeah.
And, but yes. How did I get into this?
A creative world. And so, it's biology, backstory and biography. They're always hugely linked with wherever we go in life, I think, as long as everything has been adaptive for us in those early years. So in film now, coming from that background, do you find that you're living up to the heritage, or are you surpassing it, or are they just two lanes running parallel? I suppose, and it comes from my father. It comes from that, you're only as good as the last gig you did, right? I think, having come from a family that was, quite famous, quite brilliant at what they do. And yes, it's a little, of course I get asked, do you play guitar and do you do this? And I haven't picked up a guitar in 5 years, but yes, I do play, of course I do. But the acting kind of fell on the table for me insofar as, yes, I moved to the West Coast, originally Limerick. I now live in County Clare, but and I was looking for something for my kids to do, and I happened to be walking down O'Connell Street, and my daughter was 12, I think, at the time, and I saw a queue outside a hotel. Of course, curious what the hell's going on here, and there was a poster they were auditioning for a feature film, and specifically they were looking for a 12-year-old blonde kid with brown eyes. And of course, I looked at Jade and I said, "Well, that's you. Do you want to go in?" And she's a bubbly kid, or she was bubbly kid, and she went in to do a poem in front of an array of cameras and producers and directors, and we left.
And I said, well done, you did fantastic. And they said, listen, we'll be in touch. And we left the room, and two of I can only say the director and producer walked out and walked over to me, and they said, do you act? And I said, absolutely no. And they said, do you want to act? And I said, absolutely no. And then they said, well, we've a part in this film that you're perfect for. And I got cast.
Isn't that amazing?
So yeah, a lot of actors hate me for that one. But even in doing that movie, of course, I was ridiculously nervous. And, you know, you talk about nerves and sweaty palms but I remember, you know, my first day on set, for example, and I did, I'm laughing now because I had this thing in my head, you know, because I was so nervous, you know, have never been in front of a camera, learning lines, you know, I was dealing with, you know, seasoned actors who, you know, the lead actor had come in from LA, and she's like, I had no idea what the hell I was doing realistically, except I just went, feck it. Yeah. Just be yourself. Just go and do it.
Show up.
You know, show up and do it.
Yeah.
And, but there was one gentleman there who turned around and said, you have a bit of a knack for this. And he said to me, they're auditioning for a theatrical production of The Plough and the Stars. And, you know, you should go for it. And so after finishing that film, I'm going to say, was I a little bit cocky? Yeah, I probably was. You know, I'd enjoyed my experience, let's say, you know. Yeah. And so I went for this audition for the theatrical theatre play, and got cast in the lead. So that brought me on to my first time ever being on stage. Yeah. It was the Millennium Theatre, 500-seater auditorium, you know, massive. I'd gone through, we'd done 4 weeks of rehearsals or whatever. And, but I can distinctly remember the nerves kicking in prior to opening night. Director turns around to me and goes, Zeb, you're making everyone nervous. Will you stop pacing? And he said, you've done this 1,000,000 times. And I just turned around. I said, I've never been on stage. And he went paler than I did. I don't know I was, but not a word of a lie. They put a bucket on each side of the stage because I was vomiting before I went on. Yeah. And the director just said, listen, get on there. And if you feel like you're going to vomit, walk off, vomit, get back on. That's a true story.
Oh my goodness. A word of heartfelt thanks. In just a few weeks since we launched the Síle show, over 250,000 people have tuned in to listen to the show. This is the engagement that we aspired to from the get-go, and we are beyond grateful to be riding this amazing wave of support and interest in our content. To our guests, thank you so much for showing up, for putting your trust in us, and for sharing your truth so candidly. And to you, our cherished listeners, thank you for coming back, for sharing, and for letting this space matter. Now here's the ask. We need to turn that love into subscribers so that we can keep bringing you these life-changing stories. And to show our appreciation, we're giving something back. Prizes for Subscribers is an initiative to encourage and celebrate engagement and interaction with the Síle show. Subscribe to our YouTube and or Spotify channels, follow the Síle show on any or all platforms, and we will choose a weekly winner across all access points. Winners will receive a fabulous gift bag of stunning beauty goodies from our super sponsor, Elave. Obviously, the more involvement you have with all the channels and platforms, the greater your chance of being the lucky winner. All we ask when you receive the gift is to post a story or a reel, tag us, and tell the world why you love the show and how you're using the products. The Síle show is proudly sponsored by Elave Skincare. Pure, powerful, Irish made. In the interim, you can use the code SILE10, that's SILE10, for 10% off all orders online. Follow, subscribe, and share the vibe.
But once I got on, and
I got into flow.
Well, no, I didn't even get that far, because I remember being kind of pre-positioned and lights up, and I've the opening dialogue, and I can't remember a single word. And I know now you can't see the audience, but I know there's 500 people behind that black wall, you know? And I remember just thinking to myself, oh God, how are we getting out of this one? And then I just said, oh, feck it, keep going. And then bang, I was in.
Yeah.
And once I was in,
Yeah.
I loved it. And there was no turning back for me after that. After that, I was going from theatre play to short film to feature film. And, and honestly, I suppose, I think I was probably 28 when I started, 29, I think. And I'm a lot older now, so
And still loving it.
20 odd years of experience of it.
Still loving it. We did myself and Aisling Goodwin, I was blessed to be able to co-host.
I know Aisling.
Yes, I was blessed to be able to co-host the Women in Film Industry panel at the Louth Film Festival.
Yeah, excellent.
We had a great time. And Ciara Costello, Bree Films, said, Bree Productions, the program, she said at the beginning when she was just introducing herself and what's most important to her when she's working with actors, particularly if they're a little bit nervous, is, I thought it was so significant. She said, remember the butterflies in the beginning. So that's what you're talking about. Keep them in your belly. Don't lose them. As time goes on, you'll be many, many years in the business. Keep those butterflies accessible. Remember your why, and then your how gets easier.
You can use them.
Yeah, for sure. I thought it was such a beautiful thing to say. And you say all these years later, you're still loving it, I think.
Absolutely. I do. But those nerves never go. And you're right. Those butterflies are always there.
Yeah.
And you just use them.
Yeah.
But enjoy it, because you're feeling the energy then. You're in it. You're in it.
Yes.
When you have them there, you're in it. There's no going back, so just go for it.
And it's so enjoyable. What would you say to, because this came up a lot actually when we were chatting afterwards at our meetup, the Actors Home meetup afterwards, people who are, and as Lucy Lennox told us to say, I am an actor, not I'm an aspiring actor, or I would like to be an actor. If you are, you are. Own it, step into it, be it, even if you're not booking. So what would you say to actors who are in the liminal spaces between jobs? Like I've spoken to so many young actors who don't know what part-time work to get to keep the gripper from the door,
Yeah, that's a very significant conversation to have. And the reason why I say it is, we all have to live. We all have to eat, and we used to live in this, I think it's gone now, right? We used to live in this environment where people said, well, unless you're constantly acting, you're not an actor, you're not a professional. And I used to have that a lot, insofar as I worked a lot with community theatre. But I did that purely because I loved it, and I wanted to learn more and more. And community theatre really opened up a world of different playwrights and everything else, different characters even. And but I think that some people used to think, okay, well, I'm working in a coffee shop, blah blah blah. Absolutely, it doesn't matter. I'm lucky enough to have an engineering background, and I'm okay at that.
Yeah.
And that's the bread and butter, right? But in saying that, you can come across, of course, it's a lucrative business in certain areas, but not for a lot of people. And again, even, you can talk about actors. It's the same for musicians as well. It's different dynamic. The world is changing.
For sure.
And so I don't think it's, people used to be embarrassed, I think, about saying that, oh God, well, I suppose I'm just working in the garage or whatever, or I'm serving coffees. Absolutely own that part of it, but use it.
For sure. Because you're constantly learning about the characters you may be playing. But also, I think it's difficult, though, in a very practical way. It's difficult for people to know what kind of part-time work can I get, because I need to be free to audition and I need to be free to take off when I book a job. So it is a difficult one.
You're right there. Generally, I think with audition pieces, now that we're doing self-taping a lot, I think we don't really have to worry about that so much, because now, again, we can talk about self-taping. It's the one thing I hate, insofar as I prefer to audition personally than self-taping, but I think self-taping is an art in itself as well.
Yes, for sure.
And I think we all need to learn and kind of study that aspect of it and stuff like that. But I think, listen, obviously there's I say this to people. I've done acting classes with people. I've done master classes, and first thing I ever do is go, film or theatre, and people go film or theatre, film or theatre, and it's 95% film, and I go, why don't people do theatre? That's for me. That was your grounding,
Right.
right? There's nowhere to go when you're on stage.
Yeah.
Like we can all feck up in a scene and then cut and go again and blah blah blah. No, you learn so much discipline in theatre.
Yeah.
But going back to your question regarding working, I'd say to people, any work, just get any work that you enjoy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, use it, because it doesn't matter whether you're working behind a bar or in a cafe or whatever the hell it might be. You're meeting different personalities all the time. So we as actors observe different personalities.
Of course,
So use it. Use it when you find yourself in the argument over somebody. Oh, there's too much milk in my coffee or whatever. Use that. Use it. Turn it into a scene.
Yeah.
For
sure. And I think as well, just for mental health and emotional fitness, I think, in those liminal spaces, if you're not doing something productive, but I think as well, the whole concept of just having the passion for acting and saving yourself for that, you need the plan.
The mental health thing is a very significant story. And for the simple reason is 95% of this business is rejection. It's as simple as that. But you have to understand what that rejection is.
Yeah.
And it's not, you can be the best actor in the world and not get a part, because you're not blonde or you're not blue-eyed or you're not fat or skinny or tall.
Whatever it is they're looking for at the given time.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So there's a part for everybody. Like, of course, I've gone into tons of auditions. I'm fully knowing that's not for me.
Yeah.
Or I'm not getting that. I know that.
Yeah.
And you kind of question with some, again, it's like even, your agency and stuff like that. I think it's really important to have a communication with your agency. People talk about, changing agencies and who's great, who's not great, who's this. At the end of the day, we're all trying to do the same thing, and they're there to support us, and really kind of drive us. I do think sometimes you might find yourself in a situation where they're pushing you in a direction that doesn't suit you as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to have those conversations. But I would always say to somebody, if you can understand that the rejection is so high, but if you can change your mindset to say, well, it's just not for me.
Yes.
Or, it's not my time right now. So I think it's about how you use that. So when you get that call to say, listen, thank you, but no thank you, you have to turn around and go, it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Like, don't ever, I don't think I've ever done it where you kind of go back and say, oh, well, that guy is my part, because it's just not your part. Exactly. If you start to think like that, you're bringing a lot of heavyweight back in.
You are. And then, because stressors are happening all the time in the world around us, no matter what career path you choose, and it's how you respond to the stress that matters, and the body will always be keeping score.
But it's like, even when we were at the Galway Film Fleadh during the summer, and we're meeting so many actors, and who are, they'll come over to me and say, well, oh, you've just finished this TV series, or you've just done this, or I saw you in that film, and they think you're incredibly busy. Yeah. And I can safely say I've nothing this year, whereas last year I had 3 feature films, 2 short films, and a TV series.
Yeah.
But this year is nothing. But it doesn't. I won't say it. I did think, we're coming to the latter end of the year going, Christ, I've nothing done this year. And in actual fact, you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
That's okay, because it'll come back next year.
And if you respond differently, if you get butthurt or begin to question yourself or your ability or your age or whatever, your energy is not right for showing up for the next opportunity that's absolutely going to come in the door. But you have to
for
make
this
good
career
of that.
age will never come into it. There's a part for every age group or whatever, or every dynamic. And even like that, and again, you look at individuals who, when we go back to mental health, and you look at individuals who will, I suppose, trying to improve their look by, let's go to the gym, let's be beefed up, let's be, pretty, let's be prettier, let's put more makeup on, let's go and get something done, or whatever the hell it is. And I think that's a little bit sad, insofar as, of course, there's people who enjoy it and stuff like that. But for an actor, we want to see realism.
Yes,
If you're, for any of us watching TV, or for anything that you're getting into, you're looking at real. Sure. You want real people.
Yeah.
You want real characters that you can connect with.
Absolutely.
And if you're looking at a lot of falsehoods, you're losing it anyway.
So you're kind of talking the pro-aging versus even the anti-aging approach that we might take to...
Pro-age.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Age disgracefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's the only way to do it. And stay alive, stay relevant from the point of view of your connections with people. I think that's... Yeah. If you lose that and you become just the booking of jobs, you lose the soul.
But really. Also, we're surrounded by people who all want to do the same thing. Sure. Create your own work.
Yeah.
I
think that's actually really important, Zeb. So, like when you're not actually on a professional set, stay in the vibrational vicinity.
Absolutely.
I agree with you. Yeah.
I think it's important, and I see it all the time. It doesn't. Again, for me, I live local to the University of Limerick, and there's a film department there. So you've a lot of students who are looking to do short film. All I do is pop in the odd time and go, guys, I'm still around. Do you know? Yeah. And you're not going to get paid for a short film, but you're in it. Yeah. And the brilliant thing about it is I suppose I'm lucky enough to be in the industry for so long now at this stage, is, I've from having the film festival and looking at student filmmakers. And, one of the success stories in recent times is Wayfinders, is a TV series that's being filmed down in Limerick. And that's being produced by a good friend of mine who I started with. He was the student filmmaker, and I think I'm in every one of his short films. But I watched his progression as a director to move into production, and now he's responsible for a multi-million-dollar deal production in Limerick that's being filmed. The first season I think is in the can, and the second season is about to start.
Amazing.
So it's great when you see that. So when you're going to these student filmmakers and you're going, oh God, I'm not getting paid for this. You don't know what's going to come down the line. For sure.
And sometimes they're the most special times in your life. I know I was involved in Baby Brain, Brígin Ní Bhfuil Dóiní's beautiful short movie, and I played for nanoseconds in it, but it was so special to me because the actual part that I played happened in my own real life 25 years ago, fact. And it was such a beautiful closing of a circle for me. And needless to say, these are low budget, no budget productions. So it's never for the currency.
You just hit on something there, which is really nice. It's like, for actors, it's looking at your own self experiences. So people, like it's gas when you talk about, bring on emotion, and, you've been directed, I want you to cry, or whatever it might be. But you have to have those experiences, those life experiences to find those emotions, and, but also play with those emotions. It's not necessary, I can't remember doing a scene where the girl just broke down and I said, you know what, don't do that. And yes, that's me giving her a note. And I said, but it's going to be a hell of a lot more powerful if you hold that.
Yes.
And it looks remarkable on screen. And, it's one thing where she'll turn around and fist pump and go, oh my God, you're so right there. And it's, it's nice to be able to do that. It's very, I think you should have that, develop that kind of relationship with your fellow actors on set anyway, so that we can talk, we can say, well, listen, this is what I'm going to do. Like, a good few years ago, I worked with Dakota Blue Richards on a feature film called The Quiet Hour. And there's a significant scene in it, right? Let's say I brought my daughter to see it. We premiered in London, and my daughter was there, and she looked at the screen and went, oh dear God, oh my God.
Oh, great.
So it's I'm going to say an attempted rape scene.
Oh gosh.
So it's quite a heavy thing to look at. And I remember, obviously I didn't know Dakota that well.
Okay.
And it was a close set, but she was a lot younger than I was. And, you know, of course, you know, when you're in that kind of a scene, it's very important that it's, the choreography is right, you know, whereas this is where my hand will be. This is where this hand will be. You tell me what you're comfortable with, you know, and this is why it's important to have intimacy coaches now as well. But I can remember, you know, coming out of that scene and going, wow, that was powerful. It was, and you know, definitely, you know, people did watch the film and went, wow, that was pretty heavy going. Yeah. But it was powerful scene. But I remember Dakota, you know, hadn't spoke to me for 2 days after that. But on the third day, she handed me a letter, which was basically, which I still have. And it was just a beautifully handwritten note to me to say, thank you for the scene. But also, it was so, I suppose, an experience for her that she went, oh my God, you know, people found themselves in this, you know. So she was, I suppose, maybe a little bit, I won't say traumatized by it, but maybe very thoughtful about it, you know. So those kind of things, you know, again, we're just tapping into, getting a little bit deep there, but I'm talking about just tapping into emotions and stuff like that, you know.
And exactly as you say then, as we move through life, we are experiencing these things. We all have trauma that we carry with us, not as excruciating as that, hopefully, but we can go to those places of our own personal experience to feel what we felt at those times, to bring it to the character. You don't want to be you playing the character, accessing just the feeling. You want to be completely in the character. But it is important to be able to access how you felt at different times in your life, to be able to give life to the character.
I
find
absolutely.
the mood and
Absolutely. And I remember doing a piece as well with somebody, and I remember the director kind of was a bit curious about what I was doing. And what it was I was effectively playing an alcoholic. And I remember questioning, well, am I an alcoholic or am I just a drunk?
Yeah.
You know? And I think there's a significant difference. And I remember going to a friend of mine who genuinely does have alcoholism. Yeah. And but I studied that man, you know, and I studied what he did. Yeah. And when I say studied him, I went for a beer with him, you know? Yeah. And I watched what he was doing. And the curious thing about it was the hiding of it.
Yes.
You know, and that is, you know, we talk about emotion. Like if you can hide that and hide different aspects of it, it becomes much more powerful.
Yeah, indeed. Know? People will relate.
They see it in your eyes.
Of course,
you know?
Of course.
And that's, you know, that's the whole thing about film. That's the beauty of film.
Yeah.
You know, read my eyes, you know.
You get into flow. You're often watching something on telly and you're so in flow and so involved that there's a sudden noise that brings you back to your own couch and you're realizing, oh my goodness, I'm not actually in there. You know, and that's the power, exactly as you say, of people being right in their character and drawing you in. But you're seeing it from where you're at. Everybody's watching the same film, but they're seeing a different thing because they're seeing it from their own vantage point.
Yes. Everyone has a different experience,
for sure.
Or they'll come out of it. And again, you know, having with the film festival and stuff like that, everything is subjective. So a film that I might love, you might despise, you know, and that's also the beauty of film because now we got debate, you know, now we've got something to talk about. So there's nothing better than to come out of a screening and go, right, what did you think?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
chat about it.
Absolutely. And because it's I think it's important for us as filmmakers as well to kind of like break it down. You know, you'll look at somebody and you'll go, oh, I love that character in that film. Or indeed, you might turn around and go, they spoiled that film for me. But, you know, again, it's just brings me back to the beauty of film, you know.
It does. And on the subject of that and the lovely link up with Sundance, and clearly so much in common. Well, I would imagine, am I right in saying so much in common in terms of the both? I think
Well, you talked about Sundance
Yes,
Film Festival.
yeah.
Yeah. So, like Sundance Film Festival had that kind of, obviously it's a huge film festival, but it's huge because it broadened its horizons insofar as it does have a music aspect to
Yes.
it. It does have a theatrical aspect to it, but they also obviously have the major workshops and stuff like that, and then the innovation of AI coming out and how is the industry moving. So they're very, very clued in, and
As are you guys, though. Aren't you the Irish first cousin, really, of that? In terms of Robert Redford had got tired of the machine that was Hollywood, and he took it there to give independent a chance.
I think for me, I'll be killed now by the other directors of the film festival, but I was the project manager of the festival. I'm not the chairman. I'm not the artistic director, so I don't pick films. I want to give people an experience.
Yes.
So, and previous to starting the Richard Harris Film Festival, I was actually running an arts festival in Limerick as well. And we were doing major events in King John's Castle, and I designed a magician's escape artist trick and stuff like that. And
of course you did.
Brilliant experience,
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. To have a couple of thousand people hanging around the castle, and we decide to burn a guy on the stake, and then boom, he suddenly appears up in the turret over here, and but I suppose for the film festival, I think that's what drove me to look at change or even the music aspect of it. So we spoke about the theatrical aspect that we introduced, being the live script reading. But what I did then was, I remember my brother was working on an album with a guy, Brian Byrne. So Brian Byrne is a Irish music composer. He's again based in LA now. Brian actually did the music for Black 47. He's done tons of film music. Incredibly gifted guy. And Paul was working with Brian, and unbeknownst to Brian anyway, Paul sent me some clips, as he would normally do. Say, here, listen, I'm working on this track, have a listen to this. And I go, I love that. But the concept of what they had done with this Brian Byrne album, and it was Brian had written music to James Joyce's poetry. And he'd got various different actors to kind of do spoken word on the album as well. So you'd recite a certain amount of poetry, and then the music would kick in. But I just thought, this blew me away.
Yeah.
So I rang Paul and I said, what's it going to take to do this live? And he said, what do you mean? I said, let's get Brian over. Let's get Brian. I said, how big does the band need to be? And Paul's going, oh, yeah, you're okay. Your strings, you've got brass, we're going to need an 18-piece band. And I said, how quick can we put that together? And he said, oh, we'll have to talk to Brian. So I got on the phone to Brian, and he said to me, you lunatic.
Yeah.
And I said, no, let's just do it. Yeah. Let's absolutely just do it. So we did that as part of the film festival.
Yeah.
So we the likes of Patrick Bergen down, John Connors was part of it. I think there was, but various different actors that had come in. We had Jamie Harris, we Jared Harris again, and they would get up and recite a certain amount of poetry, and then suddenly the music would kick in.
Amazing.
And it was, for me, I think that was a kind of, I loved that so much, because now I was bringing poetry, theatre, film people all together into the same thing, and it was just a new dynamic. And then not last year, it was the year before last, and again, coming from a music background, and it was just something I always wanted to do. It was in my heart to do it. I wanted to create music of the movies, right? So of course, having the Richard Harris Film Festival, I said, okay, I suppose I know what it was. I was looking for the last piece of the jigsaw puzzle, and I'll tell you this story, which was bizarre. I was at the Cannes Film Festival, and so the Cannes Film Festival, shortly after the Cannes Film Festival was the Monaco Film Festival. And I said, I'd already collaborated with certain film festivals around the world. Monaco might be one to look at. So I took a trip down to Monaco. Friends of mine had been down there. So we went to Monaco anyway, which of course is ridiculously expensive. But, and I was watching what they were doing. Now, they were more on the streaming side of stuff and, the Netflixes and stuff like that. And to my right, I was looking at this guy who was a photographer, and he two gorgeous girls there that were his models, and they were dressing up in different theme stuff. And then on the fly, he was doing stuff on his laptop, and I kind of over his shoulder looking at what he was doing, and he was I'm going to say animating the images on the fly. So I turned around and I said, I'm gonna ask you to do something there, and let's see how quick you can do it, And so I basically just said to him, listen, I have a gig for you. Can you come to Ireland? And he said, yeah, I'd love to. So what I had was, I knew I could get the orchestra. So it was the RTE concert orchestra that, I knew straight away that I just rang my father. Who am I talking to? Who do I need to talk to? Because my father and brother have obviously been part of the concert orchestra for God knows how many years. And so I had all these pieces put together. But the biggest cost of doing something like that is obviously showing the screen. And I said, I want to give somebody an experience. It's great to come in and feel that music.
Yes.
But if you have a visual, you're in it, And it was far too expensive for me to buy all the films, So we were doing the likes of Gladiator, Harry Potter. What else did we got? Patriot Games was one of my favorites. But so I got this gentleman, Justin, to do the visuals. But it was a bit mayhem because we the concert. I had the RTE Concert Orchestra booked. David Brophy was the conductor, and I was lucky enough, I went to school with David. So I just rang him up and I said, I have this idea. And he said, I'm in.
Connections, you're great.
No, I'm in. And he said to me, give me your ideas, And I literally built a music studio in the house just to listen to the music. And two of us would be, okay, we'll use this segment of the film, we'll use this, because you have to purchase the entire score of the film. So you're looking at what works, how do we mix it up, where do we start, And David Brophy, remarkable individual, absolute remarkable, loved the man, and he created a brilliant show, let's say. But Justin had done the visuals, but I'm Morgan. I'm one of these guys that's just literally running around a room, kind of going, right, what's next? What do we need to do? Is okay, we have all this, have that person in that play, right, grand. But I had 10 cameras on stage so that we could interlude the visuals with the soloists and stuff like that. So it was a real, genuine experience.
Huge, yeah.
It's funny.
Phenomenal.
I kind of fucked up a bit there. But
you love what you do. You love what you do.
I was so up to my eyeballs in it. David Brophy insisted that I didn't want to open the show because I was the producer, and I was exhausted, I think, at this stage. And David insisted that he said, you've put this together, you're opening it.
Let's do it.
And I said, oh, okay. So it's, Zeb, you have a 5-minute call, Grant. Okay, I'm standing side the stage, and I walk on and I do a bit of a speech, and I go, ladies and gentlemen, the RTE Concert Orchestra, I forget to bring on the fucking director or the conductor. So I have the microphone to my chest and I'm walking out, but I'm looking at my own feet because I know instinctively I've done something wrong here as I walk off the stage. So I'm looking down, and David is a big shoe person, and I walk off and I see the beautiful shiny shoes as I sit down, and I have the microphone here, which is still live, and I just go, oh, for fuck's sake, which meant the entire audience heard it. And the laughing I could hear my father just collapse, but the entire audience just was in hysterics. And of course, David said to me, well, I can't bring myself on. And I had to go back on stage then to say, well, obviously, guys, that was a bit of a feck up. And can you please welcome Mr. David Brophy?
Oh,
and but I felt bad.
Yeah.
And at the interval, I went up to David and I said, listen, oh my God, I'm so sorry about that. And he said, are you joking me? That was the best thing I've ever seen.
So real.
Because it was real, and immediately we had audience engagement. He said, you just made my job so much easier.
Tell me this, though, on a more serious note, because that's a light-hearted way of talking about how things can actually be quite burdensome. Has it ever been too much stress on yourself, on your body, in your private life?
I think it's hard to say. Okay, so yeah, I became sick there a couple of years ago. And when I say became sick, I was incredibly exhausted. And I'm incredibly, full of energy. People, it wouldn't be uncommon for people to say to me, Jesus, we know when Zeb Moore has walked in the door, because there was that energy.
Yes, of course.
And, but it was 2020. And I just felt incredibly exhausted, but it was, I actually can distinctly remember when I went, something wrong.
Yeah.
And it was actually as I was delivering a speech at the awards show. And my train of thought was constantly drifting. And my concentration was really bad. And I can remember coming off the stage then, and the night continued and it was fine. But I remember the following day kind of going, do you know what, I'm going to pop down to the doctor. So I went down, and all that was really wrong with me was fatigue, right? Or that's what I felt. Mm-hmm. And so what he did was basically said, listen, let's just do the checks. You're at that age. We'll go and do some heart checks and stuff like that. And we discovered I was in serious trouble. So basically, I'd gone into hospital, and my wife was there, and I'd done an angiogram. That's basic. I'd literally sailed through all the other stress testing and stuff like that. Everything came back absolutely crystal clear. So even though I couldn't knock this fatigue aspect, the doctor said, listen, we'll just do we'll send you, we're going to send you to Dublin. And up to Dublin for an angiogram, and Blackrock Clinic. And I got the whole thing, is your family here? And I said, yes, I think we should bring them in. And I went, oh, have you something to tell me? And he said, you're not leaving this hospital.
Yeah.
So I ended up I was scheduled for a quadruple bypass. I got a triple bypass because one of the other damaged areas was just too close to the heart. So,
wow.
So they didn't go near that. But I was, that's kind of a year recovery after that. When a doctor turned, I remember going in for a checkup afterwards. He said, how are you? I said, oh, just in a bit of pain. And he said, of course you are. He said, we literally had this part of you here and this part of you here, so of course you're in pain. Don't be stupid. But I suppose the question is, do I think that was part of what I was doing? I'm going to say yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to say yeah. Even though I'm incredibly, I'm constantly going, or have been. Was that life-changing? Yeah, it was,
So what are the big changes for you now, having experienced that? How are you engaging with life differently? Okay.
Everything is about attitude. So I don't want to work in any kind of stressful environment.
Yeah.
And I think even though if we look at, film sets, that's stressful anyway.
Yeah.
If you you've auditioned for a film, you're casting a film, you have to be there at 7:00 in the morning, hair, makeup, blah, blah, blah. So it's a stressful thing anyway.
Yeah.
But I think it's incredibly important for all of us just to know, fuck off with that shit and enjoy it. Yeah. Just start to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. It's part of your process. Yeah. So if you start getting anxiety when you're at that stage, if you can try and control that, because...
and I think I think social anxiety is a huge part. I know that you're a very sociable person and you've got great energy sociably, but I think dealing with people causes us a lot of stress.
Of course it is. Of
And
course
it's
it does.
very hidden. So if we can change our attitude to that as well, not be butthurt, not take things so personally. Remember that a lot of what goes on, or rather, really everything that goes on, is somebody else's business until it's yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you make it yours, you're at risk of affecting your health physiologically as well.
Yeah, so when we talk, like that's the physical part of your health, and then obviously the mental part of your health as well, which is incredibly, and of course, I've met people who listen, we go and do a production again, and you've been on set or you've been part of a film, and you could be there for 6 weeks, and that family is developed.
Yes.
How many times have you walked out of that and then bang, it's gone?
Yeah.
And you feel that. You feel that hurt. You say it's hurt. I've used the word hurt, but you're not hurt by it, but there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And what it is that disconnection from having that family environment with friendly people, and then suddenly, boom, it's gone. The film is over and it's in the edit.
Yeah.
Right?
That's actually a very good point. It's kind of like a grief. It's like a disenfranchised grief of sorts.
Absolutely. And I think, not enough of us talk about that aspect of it either. And saying that, I think it's so when I've moved from the acting into producing and stuff like that. And I thought for us, it was incredibly important. After we had finished, we did a film called The Yellow Wallpaper, feature film. We filmed that in Bruff in Limerick, and it was a period drama piece, and it was a really heavy piece to put on and to get finished, and I suppose it amazed me the amount of people who rang me afterwards, and I mean actors, camera crew, down to the costume people, who said, "Jesus, I miss it so much," and I said, "Okay, well, why are we missing it? Why? Let's all just get back together."
Well done.
And that's what I did.
Yeah.
So I said, even if it's just a drink or a dinner.
Yeah.
So I just said, no, let's go back to where we made the film. Right?
I love that, because we're pack animals and we need connection. And if we make a connection with a pack at a time, and if it's a healthy one, why would we miss we're missing a trick if we don't carve out an opportunity to get back together again. It's a really important part of the mental health overall, really, of the business that we're in.
Absolutely.
And tell me this now. So attitude has changed, and you're living more.
I'm a bit of a devil now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I say a bit of it, I don't take things as serious as I used to.
Yeah.
I think every day is an incredible day. No matter what you're doing, get up and do something.
Yeah.
I'm very pleased that I've come out the other side of this. Even though, you're going, of course, I'm minding myself, to a certain degree. Yes, I've had that life-changing experience, but it came I suppose for me, it came at the right time when COVID was there, because it meant that nobody was meeting anyone, Yeah. So I went through my recovery process during COVID. But even at that, I suppose I was still desperate to get back into doing stuff. And,
which is really healthy as well, that you had that aspect of backstory. You knew what it was like to be working, moving and shaking, meeting people. So you knew what you were going back to. But it might bring us back to the story at the earlier part of our conversation, where we talked about actors who are waiting for the role and how to manage the liminal spaces if they haven't had the big opportunities in the past. If they're just waiting, the waiting game is difficult, and the banality.
When you say waiting game, you're talking about having auditioned and then waiting on an answer, or indeed just have finished the film and waiting on the next film.
The next film,
right.
Or the next role. I think it's a difficult industry for youngsters in particular. I think if you've had another career, like as you've said, you've a very successful other career. We have to work. We all have to work. Yeah. I do too. Acting is my thing. At this, I'm in the 3rd chapter and loving it, and acting is my thing. But I have another career, of course I do, because you couldn't keep the bills paid if you didn't, and there will be times in your life where you're not on a professional set. There's very few of us that are that lucky. Yeah, exactly.
And but at the same time, again, create your own work, and it's even look at what you're doing here. It's remarkable, the Síle show and stuff like that. And it's a great part, but it's also a great opportunity for you to bring people in and connect people as well.
Absolutely.
And
it's a small thing, I suppose, in the bigger scheme of things, but it's keeping me relevant and it's keeping the CV updated in this space. I mean, I have all of my other work as well, but I suppose when we were, for example, chatting about this at the Louth Film Festival, we chatted with actors about, so we had Edwina Forkin chatting.
I know Edwina, yeah.
What a fantastic piece of advice. And it was so simple and so beautifully, gently delivered. She just said, when I started, I went from a FOSS course to an ANCO course to a position that I loved, and I realised this is where I want to stay. So her advice to everybody out there who's starting on their acting career now, or producing or directing, whatever part of the bigger jigsaw piece, your jigsaw that you're whatever piece in the jigsaw you are, she said, just get out there, do it. And if you get a helping hand, give it back.
Yeah.
I just thought it was so real. And it was, again, all of the youngsters came up after us and they said, that was such good advice. You know, I'm struggling to know how to fill the spaces in between. So I mightn't be maybe making that clear enough to you, but the spaces between the roles, Zeb, is really hard for youngsters. You know, you've done the house, you've done the marriage, you've done the children, you're further down the line. And you know, your roles are fantastic when they come. But as you said, if they don't come back to back, it's okay. You have other things to do.
Yeah, of course. Listen, you'll always kind of do it. And you'll look at, you know, House of Guinness last night. I'm sitting in the audience and I'm looking at the guy beside me going, why the fuck haven't I in this? Do you know? So every one of us does exactly the same thing.
Know.
Right?
I know a couple of the guys that were in that actually, and they had such a good time. And I do know somebody else who auditioned for it, and he would have been amazing. And like that, just wasn't right, as you say. And there's the, you know, it's like, you know, you're sucker punched.
But let's, you know, I don't think we should dwell on it. I think if something like that is, you know, you've auditioned for a piece, audition, do your best, because that's all you can do, and walk away. But you know, I'd say to people, be prepared as well, you know. So like there's other aspects of, and we talk about self-taping, talk about auditioning, and a lot of serious players in this game will say they always do a shit audition, you know. But yet they're going to be cast or whatever. So how many times have we gone in and gone, oh, I shouldn't have done that?
No.
You know. So I would say to people, number one, be absolutely prepped in what you're doing.
Yes.
Know exactly your choices, your decisions as a performer, as an actor. But, you know, so give yourself the best possible chance anyway.
Sure.
Regarding the weight, I think that's for everybody. You know, it's how you manage it, and definitely don't be overthinking. You know, it's like I've done that. You know, I've done the auditioning pilot season in Los Angeles, and now that's gruesome. That's incredibly hard, because you're literally going from audition to audition to audition to audition, and if you're auditioning in LA, you're auditioning in front of 150 people. It's like a theatrical performance. And there's actors in that audience, but there's casting directors, there's directors, there's producers, and they're all going, who's this guy? Or who's this next kid on the block? Right? So it's you know, you're kind of, oh, wow, you know.
It sounds to me, though, like even that is like an apprenticeship, though, for the bigger thing. And I think the big advice, what I correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is, from your life experience and from the position of the many hats that you wear. So you have this great experience in all of the aspects of this particular game. And we're probably saying to people that are listening, stay busy, stay relevant, you know, create, write, get involved in other aspects of film. Like, so that you can't necessarily, you know, take a part-time job or a job that mightn't let you off then to go when you do get 3 weeks work here or a week's work there. See, I'm being very practical when I say it is difficult.
But help each other. Help each other. You know,
I love it.
If you're, you know, Síle, you get, oh my God, I'm after getting I have an audition coming up. Give me a ring. You know, let's work together on it. Let's give you the best possible chance you have.
Fighting chance, absolutely.
You know? And of course I'm saying me, but that can be, you know, anyone. Find your find somebody who's, the other thing is be honest.
Yeah.
You know,
Be real.
be
And
real.
also,
There's no point in me turning around to you and going, oh my God, that was perfect. When in my heart and soul, I know it's not.
I know,
You
that's
know?
not the one. But people could, for example, so you mentioned in the film festival that it's a lot of volunteer work. So people that aren't yet cast in a role and they have time to spend healthily, can they volunteer? Is it
Absolutely.
that type of, yeah?
Absolutely,
Would
yeah.
you always have work for somebody who doesn't need necessarily to be on the payroll?
Well, apart from the festival, it's like even the music concerts or productions, or like, you know. So I'm working on various different projects that are all at different levels of development right now. You know, there's a massive, or is it 2 TV series that I'm on one of those TV series for 5 years. Yeah. You know, so these things take a ridiculous amount of time, and I'm on 2 feature films at the moment. But I'm behind camera, not in front of camera. So I'm producing.
Yes.
And I love that aspect of what I do as well, because it's like I know how to connect people.
Yeah.
You know, I just know what works, or if some individual is looking for something, I can get, I know who will work for you.
Yes.
And I think that comes from, you know, as you said, it comes from variety of experiences, you know, as well, and within the industry and tipping in different aspects of the industry as well.
Tell me this. Richard Harris said, I had too much to dream last night. So just hooking on to that one then, what are the dreams for Zeb Moore? What's coming up? What's next?
Well, I don't have any auditions coming up. So what's the dream? Do you know, plain and simple is just to be happy for me. And that's honestly it. And if I can tip away and work, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But further, you know, looking at, you know, as I said earlier, we're looking at the whole rebrand of the festival. That's really exciting to me, you know, and you know, I'll talk to yourself. I want to talk to filmmakers about exactly what we're doing here. So how can I make that festival more amenable to you?
Yeah.
You know, how can you use that festival to best benefit you? Yeah. And I think that, you know, that's what we as a team are about. We couldn't give a shit whether Zeb Moore or whoever is there. It's about the people who come to that festival. They must enjoy the experience, but they have to get something out of it. And I think for the most part, and it's great. Like we have some phenomenal, wonderful stories with various different people. You know, there was one film that went on to get Oscar nominated, you know, that we were honouring and stuff like that. That's an incredible story. We had a cinematographer that came in. He was honoured by the festival. He went on to win the Emmy for cinematography. Like, we've got remarkable stories like that. And for me, that's the beauty.
That's where it's at.
That's where it's at.
Yeah.
I know categorically right now that festival has changed people's lives.
Yeah.
You know, and it set people on a direction because of their experience, or indeed meeting certain individuals at that. And they go, do you know what? This is for me.
Yeah.
I love this. This is the route I'm going.
And as you said, the networking, because for example, the day I met you in Galway, I had been to see Love Lane United, and it filmed again in Dundalk at Louth Film Festival. Absolutely amazing independent film. The visionary co-writer and director Jack Thornton, and his opposite number, Cathal McQuillan, nearly sure.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. What a fantastic film. But the story for me that stole my heart, the film itself is fabulous. The actors are amazing. My own gorgeous son is in it, might I add. And he's
great
brilliant.
guy.
Oh, he's
I met him.
He's a great guy. I know, bias. I'd have to stop the mammy talk now. But what a fabulous film. You know what stole my heart, literally, from the very beginning, was the story of how that whole family and whole community got involved. Honestly, I waxed lyrical about this when I got the chance to meet Jack's mammy and actually his partner's mammy and the extended family. So independent film requires festivals to give them their exposure. It requires a whole family to carry the dream over the finish line with them during the horror, and then to celebrate with them. And in my view, that's one of the biggest, most soulful parts of a film festival, is giving the independent the platform.
Well, I think for me, and I do this, and I've done this every year, every year for the film festival, and it's more congratulating for us. It's let's celebrate the filmmaker, because I would turn around to anyone and say, when they get their film made, it's a miracle, because anything can happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, you could be working on a multi-million-dollar production that will fall at the last hurdle. You can be working on a €50 production that will fall at the last hurdle. So it doesn't really matter. So any film that's made is an absolute miracle. And that miracle is created by the family you're talking about.
Yes.
Because it's a passion, it's a desire to we're all in this for the one same reason, is to get the project made.
Yeah.
You know? And for actors, you know, of course, for that collective family that you're talking about, the actors are only a tiny percentage of that.
Absolutely.
You know?
I know that. I know that. I couldn't help tapping into those stories. I'm such a storyteller, always was. And connecting with people, even when I was young and used to go to the Gaeltacht, I wasn't really hanging around with people my own age. I was in and out the back doors of Much and a Hatchet, talking to the older people, trying to understand, you know, life from the previous generation. So I was so interested in exactly how you get a film from your kitchen table and, you know, a pencil on a page to the big screen.
Oh,
and it was literally...
It's remarkable.
It's a full family believing in their kid, believing in his dream, buying into it, lock, stock and smoking barrel. I mean, financially, emotionally, time-wise, space-wise. I mean, that fabulous family, the mammy made flasks of tea every day and sambos, and they pulled up a caravan to wherever the guys were filming. But the sense of camaraderie you talk about after a film is over, they missed it. But they do come back together and they've stayed friends and it's gorgeous. And when they did the Q&A after the screening in Dundalk, you could feel that sense of closeness and how they had carried each other. And that's what independent...
But there's phenomenal relationships made out of these things, you know, and lifetime friendships, you know, are made by just meeting somebody on set.
For sure.
Of course, there's romantic stuff that happens too. But those relationships are incredibly important. And it's all, you know, everything is incredibly... It's like even... I know in another production, I remember kind of... there was at one point it felt, oh, something's not working here.
Yeah.
And it was like... being pulled away in some way, and I just felt something was wrong. And it was just, I think it was just very simply one of the actors was unhappy about being in some position of where, you know, like we were filming in the middle of nowhere and they might have had a B&B or something that wasn't quite up to their standard or something like that, and attitudes kicked in, and but those kind of things are easily corrected, you know. You just tell me and I'll sort it, you know. But
it's all, you know, for the dream you have to kind of concede some of the you know, the luxuries or whatever. But it's so amazing at festivals to see these independent films getting their platform, and I think that's probably what you guys.
But also, a film festival is incredibly important to fail, and what I mean by that is when a film festival give you an opportunity and that platform to screen your film, and it's incredible, but you should learn by it. You have to, you should improve by it. You know, we all go to make a film. Everyone's, you know, oh, well, I'm the new director and I'm 15, 16, 25 years of age, whatever the hell it is. But your goal is to be recognised with an award, with an Oscar or an Emmy or something. You know, that's what every one of us strive for that. Of course we do. But it's not necessary either, I suppose, you know. For what we talk about, even regarding mental health and stuff like that, enjoy it. Enjoy the process. Exactly. You know, as I said, even when I started, that level of nervousness and that's genuine. Vomiting that's genuine part of it. And then suddenly you go on. Like I toured a one-man show for 7 years through Ireland and England, on and off. It was a piece that was specifically written for me called Spinal Crap. And Crap, K-R-A-P-P, so it was a play on Crap's Last Tape, Beckett. Yeah. So it was very Beckett style. And but that's probably one of them. When I say without doubt, it's probably the most difficult thing I've ever done, insofar as you play 34 characters, or at least 34 characters on the stage over an hour and 20 minutes or whatever the length of the play is. And but the experiences of dealing with other people, even though it was just me and the director, it was vital. To give you a story, as part of the thing, because we were calling it a kind of stand-up tragedy, because quite a harrowing piece, but and true to life. It was actually his story. The director wrote it, and it was actually his story. So I was playing him throughout the whole play, and it was a horrific incident that happened in his life as a young kid, where effectively he was kidnapped and beaten, and this was his way of dealing with that mental stress.
Yeah.
You know, so I can remember, like, again, it's just coming back to me that when he saw me in a piece, and he hung around after I had finished that production, and he met me outside, and I was smoking at the time, and the two of us were having a fag, and he was kind of jittery and a bit nervous. And he just turned around to me and he said, "I have a piece, but you're probably the only actor in the fucking world that can do this."
Yeah.
And he said, "But I haven't got it finished." And he said, "But I'll have it finished now, because now I've spoke to you, I'll have it finished in a week." But he handed me this script, of which I could not make head nor tail of in real terms, but I got the sense of it. But incredibly brilliantly written piece. And but yeah, that was his way of dealing with that horrific traumatic time of his life.
Yeah.
You know, but sorry, don't but I had conceptualized he wouldn't direct me until I was off book. So I basically was bringing my own nuances into what his writing was, whether it was correct or not. You know, you're just playing with ideas. And I remember performing it for the first time, and he got up and left the room, and I went, "Oh shit, I'm obviously that bad." But it was because he said to me, "What you've just done there is bring every ounce and pour and everything that was in that to me." And he said, "We're done."
It's a trigger.
He said, "We're done. We're finished. We're not doing it." And he said, "Because if you bring that to an audience," he said, "I could not do that to an audience." Wow. And I went, "Wow, you know, is that a compliment?"
Yeah, it's a veiled compliment. Yeah.
And I go, "Wow, okay." But what we were discovering was that what we would call the arc of the play as such, what was happening was I had put the arc incorrectly towards more the end of the play. So it left the audience feeling a little bit distraught.
Wow, as they left, yes.
So what we did was we played around with how do we fix this, and eventually we found what worked, and again, you know, that play, as I said, was all over the place. I performed at Electric Picnic.
Amazing.
Actually. I
actually think that in the beautiful, it's like a sit-down tragedy that we have to bring this to an end, your stand-up tragedy, because we could talk forever. But I think, ironically and beautifully, the closing of a circle has happened very organically, because I think what you've just breathed into the space is for the people that are waiting, this waiting that I'm constantly talking about, that I'm concerned about, because I work as a therapist and I know that waiting and the banality of that can cause procrastination, which can cause depression and all the things.
Absolutely.
And I want people to remember what Ciara Costello said, the butterflies in your belly, remember the why so the how gets easier. And I think you've just dished it up to us. You've delivered for us there, because write something, write a piece of your own story, plan to tour it, even if you never do, plan to give it as a script to your friend or to a colleague to see what it would be like, just to keep you relevant, just to keep you in the creative space. Whatever you do, don't go cool. Don't go off the boil.
No.
Stay.
Read plays.
Yes.
Read plays.
Yeah.
Because the stuff and, these are printed for a reason, there's incredible playwrights out there. There's new playwrights out there that are absolutely remarkable. And that to me is, that's, it's your menu, to have a look and go, right, okay, well, do you know what? I'm gonna have him in my head as I read through this piece, and this is how I would play him.
Yes.
Or indeed, this is how I'd play the opposite character to him. So if I was cast, if you read a play, you could kind of cast yourself in it.
Sure.
And if you start to develop, that gets your juices going and everything else, and so I think that's incredibly helpful as well.
Keeping your hand in. Yeah,
Keeping
exactly.
your hand in, absolutely.
Well, listen, it has been an absolute pleasure. We could talk forever.
Absolutely.
And we did in Galway, and we will again, no doubt. Thank you so very much for those nuggets, for the sharing, for the really good advice, and the grounding piece. I'm very grateful that you shared your own personal story. I think it's very grounding to know that whatever job we're in, wherever we are, the body's keeping score. And
it is, yeah.
Yeah, we need to
mind
ourselves.
yourself.
Yeah, for sure. The alarm system is in for a reason, is in our body for a reason. We are going to get sick if we need to get a message to self that that we're getting a fax and an email
listen to your
from
body.
the universe. So listen to your body.
Listen to your body.
On that note, thank you so very much. And everybody's going to really enjoy listening to this. Thank you so much, Zeb.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. And there you have it. A conversation that began in cinema and moved through, to coin a phrase, the many rooms in my father's house, to the very human and relatable concepts of legacy, health, resilience, and creative purpose. In listening to Zeb Moore, you hear the voice of someone who has lived life enough to know that it's not just the stories we tell, it's the stories we live. From navigating stress and resultant ill health, albeit briefly, and that's all in an attitude, as he explained, to building the Richard Harris International Film Festival. Zeb reminds us that how we respond to pressure is more important than the pressure itself. That's the living science of epigenetics. Our genes may set the stage, but our choices direct the play. And for anyone waiting, we talked a lot about waiting for the right moment, for the funding, the clarity, the call. Let this episode be your reminder that you don't have to be booking all the time to feel bookable. What is advisable is to stay busy in the liminal spaces. Keep your pecker up. Read plays, he said. Really good advice. Your energy speaks before your resume ever does. And as we've said before on the Síle show, excellence is a decision. It's effort-led. It's like inside-out engagement with small things and all things, not just an outcome. So particularly when things don't seem to be going your way, that's the very time that you need to walk your talk. Fix the roof while the sun is shining, as such. If you know what your core values are, if you do the work to bed those in as beliefs, belief in self with a capital S, up front and centre of everything, of course, you're more likely to make values-based decisions as opposed to emotions-based decisions, even when you're up against it. Like the job you don't get, that waiting. The banality of that could fuel procrastination if you don't disrupt it. What was it? Richard Harris said, "There's not in the world a more miserable person than the actor who's just successful enough to be remembered and just unsuccessful enough to be broke." In many ways, what Zeb and his collaborators are building in Limerick is the Irish first cousin of what Robert Redford imagined with Sundance. Not just a platform for film, but a culture of courage, a community where story is currency and independence is celebrated. And as we honour Richard Harris, the original rebel, the original romantic, we honour a man who broke moulds not just to be outrageous, but to be authentic. "I had too much to dream last night," he said. Good, I say. Dream wildly. Then waken up and move like it's already happening. So now, your task for this week. We gently invite you every week to do a little something after the Síle show. So this week it's the 5-minute reset. 5 minutes. Think about this. We don't raise to the level of our ambition. We fall to the level of our nervous system. So here's your real world reset. Like a toolkit for when doubt, distraction or stress try to take the wheel. Step 1. It's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 mindfulness drop. Use this anytime to come back into your body, into this moment, which is the only one that you can act from. Okay, what are 5 things that you can see? 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. Just do that. It grounds you, opens the door to the next move. Step 2. The big high five. Stand up, literally. I mean, really stand up and give yourself a big high five. In the mirror, in the air, wherever you are. I really mean it. If you're struggling, if you're stressed, if anxiety is setting in, give yourself a big high five. That physical act dilates your blood vessels, triggers a nitric oxide dump, which gives your brain a shot of oxygenated confidence. And this isn't fluff, it's functional neuroscience. Step 3. The 5-minute forward look. It's all about fives. Very easy to do. Now ask yourself, where do I see myself in 5 minutes from now? I didn't say 5 hours, 5 days. This time I'm just saying, where do I see myself in 5 minutes? Because if I'm still on the couch and I'm feeling meh, I need to move. And if you can think about whether or not you're standing with belief in yourself, whether or not you're acting with intention, whether or not you're moving like someone who's already in the room, think of the audition, you're nearly there. You just take one micro action that aligns you with your future self, then another, then another. Then, when you get practiced at that, step into yourself 5 years from now, look back and ask, is what I'm doing today teeing up the life that I actually want to be living tomorrow and resultantly 5 years from now and beyond? Because passion without a plan is just hope. And I say just hope. Hope is wonderful. But action in the vibrational vicinity of your dream, that's momentum. So whether you're a screenwriter, a director, a performer, or someone still figuring out where you fit, know this. You don't need to know every step of the road. You just need to start walking like you belong on it. And the rest, well, the rest will meet you there. Disrupt inertia or be disrupted by it. Start small. Start now. Start from within. And so it is.